How to change the Arrma OutCast pinion gear? Well, it comes with this optional 16 tooth pinion, so I'm going to fit this to the car today, doing it step by step on the camera, so you can see just how easy or not, as the case may be, it is to do, or undo rather. Use a good set of hex drivers. Highly recommend these dynamite ones, they will speed up this job. So without more ado, let's get on with changing the Arrma OutCast pinion gear. One word of warning when fitting a larger pinion gear to the car: it's obviously going to increase the top speed, but it is going to increase the load on the motor, and it will get warmer, and the ESC will get warmer as well, and it will put more demand on the battery. Anyway, how do we undo the motor? Well, first of all, turn the car over. There are 5 screws, 2 on the left side of the motor, 2 on the right side of the motor, and 1 up here also on the left side of the motor. So it's 3 on this side, 2 on this side. So I'm going to undo those. Oh, bear in mind, you're going to need to hold the motor from behind to stop this dropping off. Well, the chances are when undoing these and it's factory fresh, they are going to be very, very tight, and you may need an additional hex wrench with a bit more leverage on it to undo them. Now, as you undo that last screw, you want to be holding on to the motor as the whole thing is now freely moving up and down. Just one tip I would say is when you take the screws out of the chassis plate, if you put them on the side in exactly the same layout and shape, then you know precisely which holes they go back into. Not such a problem with these, with them all being the same size, but it will make them easier to screw in nonetheless. Well, the motor will now lift out. You are going to need to disconnect the 3 wires from it just for convenience. You could do the job with them in, but easy without. The drive shafts have just dropped out of the ends of the diffs here, of that centre diff, which is footing on the side. You want to make sure when putting the car back together that they are securely in these ends of the car, otherwise not just in the middle by the motor, otherwise the other end of it flaps around inside the car at very high speed, causing potentially a lot of damage. So make sure they're in both ends of the differential there. Probably blindingly obvious to say, but make sure you don't have the battery in or the thing turned on when you are removing these leads. They pull off very, very easily. They're all colour coded, so you know exactly how to put them back on. Well, the next step is, with our motor completely removed, we're going to loosen the pinion gear screw, which is just in here. If I zoom in, if you can see that in there, you may need a bit of leverage. This is Loctited on there. Use Loctite when putting the new pinion gear back on. Otherwise, you put the whole car back together, the thing isn't on properly, blows this gear loose, and this thing just spins around, and you lose all power, and you come back home without doing what you wanted to do. You will also need to loosen the 2 bolts on the motor mount here, as you're going to be fitting a bigger gear, so you're going to need to move this slightly, the motor slightly further away from the spur gear here. Also note that when removing the pinion gear grub screw, you will need to completely remove it from the pinion gear. Well, for anyone who thinks this stuff is easy, this pinion has taken about 20 minutes of hard work without damaging anything to remove. There is that much stud lock on here that it's actually filled the inside of the pinion gear and welded the pinion gear on very securely. Well, my advice to you when fitting any new pinion is to put the old pinion in the bag the new one came with. That way you won't lose it. Well, when fitting the new pinion gear, I would recommend using some Threadlock on the little grub screw there. There was red on the inside of the old pinion gear, which indicates somebody may have used stud locker on there rather than Threadlocker. Quite a bit tougher to remove. There are 2 flat sides to the motor output here. You're going to want to make sure your grub screw slides down and goes over one of those flat sides and stays in there until you then tighten that back up. Just level it up in line with the spur gear. Well, when realigning the pinion gear with the spur gear, Arrma gives you an instruction manual here detailing exactly how much clearance you need to get between the 2 gears. So I'm just going to go and do that. You are going to need to put Threadlock on these 2 screws. What I would recommend is setting the gap, tightening one of these very tight by hand, remove the other, put Threadlocker on there, put that back in, tighten it up, and then remove this one, put Threadlocker on that one. Well, there's my motor ready to go back in. Threadlock these 2 screws, threadlock the centre grub screw that attaches the pinion on there. Check the clearance, which seems fine, so back in the car with it. Time to reinstall the motor. Note that if you remove these 2 screws, remember for goodness sake to put the motor can wires on the outside so that they parry up with the matching wires from the ESC. What I would recommend is putting the first drive shaft in and ensure it is connected in there at the front still, in there first, and then the rear one again, ensuring that the rear one is connected in at the back. Now when that is back in place, that's loosely in place, not screwed in yet, ensure, as I would say, it's imperative both ends of both drive shafts in there are nice and secure. With one hand, grab and clamp the whole motor assembly and turn the car over to put those screws back in. So to do that, put one hand underneath the car, one hand on top holding the motor, and very carefully turn the car onto its wheels on the side. You're then going to need to marry the motor mount holes up with the screw holes. What I would recommend when putting it back together, put the middle screw loosely in first. That's going to stop any kind of flex on the moving around on the drive shafts on the other side, and the same, put this top right hand screw just loosely in, just finger tight, just to lock the whole thing to make sure those drive shafts don't pop out. I've still got my hand on the motor here. By putting these out on the side in a position to come out the car, they do tend to, for some reason, go in better than just putting them back in at random, even though they are all the same size screws. That's all of my my motor and motor mount screws back in there, just those 5, that's all we need in there. Just I've kept my hand on the top of the car all the time. I'm now going to tighten them up using my hex wrench. I've not put any Threadlock on. I did not found on the other cars. Arrma cars, they move around too much. You do check them every now and again. Just remember to do them up nice and tightly. A little bit of Threadlock in them if you're worried, or you're just starting out in the hobby. That's all 5 screws tightened in nicely there with the hex wrench. So we can now let go of the motor with the car back upright. The next job is very simply to refit the colour-coded cables to the motor. I'll just take the camera off just to show on here. The motor cables on nice and tight. You want to make sure they're sort of as watertight as possible. There is a neat little cable mount just down in here, which these 3 leads just pop back into, which I'm just going to push them down. Lastly, sanity check that both ends of both drive shafts are secure in their relevant housings. If not, if this thrashes around loose at one end on 6S power, and the amount of damage it will do, well, let's just say you have been. I hope you like this step-by-step guide as to how to change the Arrma OutCast Pinion gear. If you did, then please subscribe to see more videos of this great car and many more like it. This job should only take you about 10 to 15 minutes, I would say, on a good day. The first time it will take longer because everything's got Threadlock on, substantially more in this case because the pinion gear probably took longer to remove than the whole of the entire job did. If you like this video, as ever, please give us a thumbs up and by all means subscribe. Thanks for watching.
Well, if you like this video, then please do subscribe. And if you want to buy your RC gear, where I buy mine, buy from F&M Hobbies in New Jersey. Many thanks for watching.